I've really built this confidence in me that's invaluable. The confidence in of itself that like you did something that was scary and you had it in you to that leap of faith. Like everyone's just like worried about themselves. Unfortunately, like people are inherently self-centered. And so I think it's like you're putting so much weight on somebody else's perception or opinion of you when the only opinion that should really matter is yourself.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
And today we're joined by my friend, Louisa. Welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Super excited to have you here. So, Louisa, we love to let you guys do your intros because I would never do them justice. And so, with that being said, can you tell our audience who you are, what you're up to, what you're building, and just let them know a little bit more about you and what you got going on?
Sure. So I'm Louisa. I'm the founder of Shanti House. We are a wellness and conscious living community for entrepreneurs. And we're specifically partnering with brands and mission-aligned businesses. And we curate events here in New York City for like-minded people to recover, discover, and connect.
Very short and to the point. I love it. But
Can you tell I practiced my pitch a few times?
It's open-ended, makes you want to ask more questions. It's like the perfect elevator pitch you're going to get too. It's like, well, now you got to dive into the nitty-gritty and tell me more.
Exactly.
Right.
Where do we want to take this? Where I came from?
Well, wait. Let's give the folks a little bit about like you. What is your story?
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my background has been in management consulting. So I live in New York now. I've been in New York for the past 10 years. I started off out of undergrad working in financial services advisory. So started at a company called EY for about 5 years, working with, big banks across the country, globally as well. And then about 5 years in, I transitioned over to Boston Consulting Group, which is where I was most recently for the latter half of the decade. So spent about 5.5 years there, and predominantly in the verticals of financial institutions, and then some big tech towards the end as well. And that company that experience itself was amazing. I learned so much. I got to travel to Australia for 4 months, lived in Paris for a few months, all over the country working with Fortune 500 companies, and learned a ton. But I think at some point when I turned 30, I had kind of an aha moment where I was asking myself a lot of these hard questions around purpose and what actually made me feel fulfilled, rewarded, what was my calling. And, some of these answers were not leading to becoming a partner at BCG. And I just decided that it was time for me to make a pivot in my career. So after spending about a decade in management consulting in extremely high demand, highly demanding, corporate as it gets environments, I decided to leave in November 2023. So left with nothing lined up. I just knew it was time for me to make a switch. And I knew also I really wanted to spend some time doing some self-discovery and figuring out from a personal level, what was it that was really calling me from a purely personal purpose perspective. So I left in November of 2023. I went to Bali and got my yoga teacher certification, which Vin had called out. I did the whole, eat, pray, love thing for a month. And I spent a month there just really deepening my spiritual practice, but also asking a lot of questions around what I wanted to do next in my next chapter of life. So when I came back to the States, I decided that I was going to take all of my experience in corporate and in consulting and try to help smaller scale organizations, nonprofits, and startups that I felt like I had a much more personal connection to. So personally for me, I've always been really into wellness, into spirituality, mindfulness practices. For me, these modalities have really just changed my life fundamentally, not even physically and like health wise, but how I approach the world, how I approach my businesses, how I approach my relationships, like really all facets of life. So I wanted to really kind of just share that practice and see if there was a way I can integrate that with what I was doing from a professional standpoint. So I started to help founders in the wellness space. And it really started with a few friends, honestly. When I first got back from Bali, I actually spent a few months in Costa Rica. I was helping one of my best girlfriends down there scale her marketing agency. So she runs a creative agency down there that really supports mission-led or mission-driven entrepreneurs within the local community there. A lot of them are in the wellness space. A lot of them are in sustainability. And I was helping her with the business operations and really loved that experience. I felt it was taking my skill set and all of my experience that I had, worked so hard in my 20s for, but really utilizing it in a much more impactful way where I could see the impact, where I could like touch and feel like the tangible outcomes, and helping obviously my friends and smaller scale organizations was something that felt really, really rewarding to me. And so I decided I was going to continue doing that when I got back to New York. I was going to all of these startup events, networking events to meet startup founders. And that is where I discovered this opportunity to create Shanti House. I was going to all these 100-person networking events where it's just a lot of drinking and bad food and exchanging of QR LinkedIn codes. And it was just, exhausting. It felt super transactional. It felt really exhausting from like an energy perspective. I'm like a really big believer of energy. Like what you put out there is really what you absorb. And I just didn't feel like these events were really aligned to my energy and what I wanted to get out of, not only just what I wanted to get out of these experiences, but what I wanted to give. And so I decided that I was going to start something myself and fill that gap. And so that was the idea for Shanti House at the very beginning. The entire genesis of it was really just bringing founders together in a much more meaningful and intentional way, while also helping support these early stage founders, not only in their businesses, but also their like personal well-being. So it started with a few founder friends, like really it was like 5 founder friends that I would just get together and we would do yoga. And then over time that really scaled, like organically kind of grew on its own. They would tell their friends, people would see us posting on Instagram, we'd be like, what's happening? Can I join? And it got to a point where we started to do events much more frequently, like started once a month, then twice a month. We're now doing events weekly, if not multiple times a week. And we obviously can no longer, do these events in my living room, in my studio apartment. So we've started to expand to event spaces, yoga studios, other facilities. It's also expanded to other modalities, not just yoga, but breath work, meditation. We've just recently launched our partnerships with F45. We've done some stuff at Othership, which Vin and I have had some great conversations at. But yeah, it really kind of evolved on its own organically. And I think 2 things came out of it. One, just this need. I think I discovered that it wasn't just me, that like there were so many people in New York that were feeling the same way. That, one, they were isolated and lonely and stressed. So looking for an outlet to really improve their mental well-being, but also just from a pure like community perspective, I think they were really longing for this connection, craving some type of connection that felt much more genuine. And so, yeah, that was really validating just to know that like, it was not just me. A ton of people are moving towards this like conscious connection, conscious consumption. People are drinking less. People are being much more mindful about what they're putting into their bodies and where they're spending their time. And I think for us, it was started off with, wanting to obviously help people with their overall health and well-being, but really expanding to not just being what you eat and what you, how you exercise, but like what you consume in every facet. So like what you watch, what you read, where you spend your time, where you spend your money, right? And so we started to attract like-minded people and bring people together. And yeah, at some point throughout the year, brands started to get involved. They would reach out and wanted to get in front of our community. obviously being, health conscious, wellness driven community, we had a lot of brands that reached out to want to partner with us to get their brands in front of our community. So at that point, it was like June or July of last year where we really started to work with brands. And then at a certain point, we also started to get tech, service providers and startups interested in getting in front of the early stage founders. So it was like almost like two niche demographics that we started to get a lot of inbound to partner on. And now pretty much all of our events are either partnered or sponsored. And the whole objective, the ethos has remained the same, which is we bring like-minded people together to move their bodies, to calm their minds, but also to intentionally connect with each other and discover emerging wellness products or brands and businesses that are, entering the space.
I can also vouch.
Yes, right. That was from elevator pitch to that.
That was amazing. It was the whole story, though. Like, I was there every step of the way. Like, I thought it was phenomenal. Go ahead, Vin. I know you were starting this one off.
No, you're good. You could jump. I was just going to vouch. I've been to a few of the Shanti House events, and they're absolutely phenomenal. It's if you're somebody who enjoys meditation, enjoys working out, enjoys good quality people, I think that going to the Shanti House events is really that, because I've been to a lot of networking events and I've grown to really find kind of like what Louisa's solution is that a lot of these networking events are just boring. They're super transactional. People don't care about who you are or how you are. They just care of like, what can you do for me? And if it's nothing, I really don't care about you. And I've never made a business that way. I've never made a living that way. And so finding events like that are super important to me. And so Shanti House has really done an amazing job with that. Shane, if you had a question, go for it. Otherwise, I have a question.
I actually want to mention the pickup, even from what you said. As a successful business owner, I want to talk about both of those things that were just mentioned and give a different side of this perspective here.
Go for it.
I like networking events that are transactional, because when you get to a certain level, it's you don't waste my time. I'm not going to waste your time. However, and this is a very, very big however, I met Vin at a networking event, and because of that, I've made a lifelong friend. I made somebody that I feel 100% confident in. I feel, he's a brother to me. So I feel like those two are completely different, but they're completely different outcomes. One is benefiting my business and one is benefiting me. So I personally love both sides of that, but I love your way a million times more because I'm continuing to reap those benefits. And thank you for sharing that story. My question that I immediately want to go into, and if this is the appropriate time to dive into this, is you took the hiatus. You went to a completely different country. You had no intention of, what you wanted to do next. And then even when you got back to the States, you're like, what am I going to do with all this information? And obviously I'm just, recapping here. Then you helped a founder essentially build her business, or not build her business, but essentially make it more cohesive, make it a better operation, and you got the taste for it. Then you took advantage of that information and doubled down on yourself. Like, all of these things are very impressive, and it's not a lot of people that have the entrepreneur like internally in them to do. And I feel like it's very important to state that, because a lot of people are not willing to take that risk of leaving a high-end salary behind to chase their dreams, even if they don't know what that is. You took the hiatus. You said, let me do some self-reflection. Let me see what I am here for. Let me see how I can contribute. Let me see how I can give. And look where you're at now. And look how it's grown. I mean, I transitioned. I started to a question, and more I'm just like,
where was the question?
I'm so impressed with this, and the fact that it's happened within a year, less than, it's just amazing to see. So I just want to commend that.
I know, thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, it's really hard to step out of the the weeds, you know, like I mean, I'm sure you guys can both relate. Just you're putting out fires constantly. You're always behind. Like you check one thing on the to-do list and 7 things get added. So it really does take like intention to step back and be like, yeah, it's been a year and this is how much we've grown. This is what we've done. And so to hear comments like that really are really validating, and they're really appreciated, because I often forget to give myself credit for how much work and growth has gone into this.
We all do.
Advice. Yeah. That's my question. What advice can you give somebody that needs to hear it, that needs to follow into your footsteps, or that needs to, hey, it's okay to, you know, take this off and rethink life?
Yeah. I mean, so much, right? Like, I think the reason why people are hesitant to take that leap of faith or that risk is because of fear of failure, right? And I think failure for me has changed so much since I left corporate. I come from like a very traditional immigrant family where, you know, there's expectations and you don't get a, you know, B+ is bad, like A- is bad. You go for the A+. And I think that for me, I've always become a perfectionist because of that. So I've always been a huge perfectionist, very, very type A. And I think that like sense of failure is like the worst thing that could ever happen, right? Like, what if I decide to leave and then whatever I decide to do next, like fails, or like people judge me for leaving like this prestigious job to go become a yoga teacher, right? Like there was all these narratives in my head of what failure was and what that like weight of failure would be. And in my hiatus, in my self-discovery, I really I had to redefine a lot of things for me, like redefine what success meant, redefine what happiness meant, what purpose meant, like impact, like all these things that I felt like I had traditional sense of like, yeah, you know, success is money and your title and being able to, you know, buy your first apartment in New York, you know, and I had all these things and I felt somewhat empty inside. And so I was like, I have to redefine these things for myself because it's not aligned to who I am. And so failure for me was a big topic when I was going through my hiatus and having to redefine like, okay, if you fail, what is the worst case scenario? And that fear of failure like slowly over time really diminished for me. And a lot of it was like, okay, what is that fear really stemming from, right? Like fear of what people might think about me if this doesn't go as according to plan. I pretty much within a few months realized that nobody cares what you're doing. Like you put yourself under a microscope and everything you post, everything you say, like you think that people are like watching you, but people are just so preoccupied with their own lives and trying to stay afloat and like, you know, grow their businesses. Yeah, maybe there might be some initial reactions, but people are going to forget in like literally a few hours. And so that realization was so freeing to me. I was like, okay, no one actually gives a shit what I'm doing. No one's going to care if this fails except for me. And I think the other fear of, you know, failure, like what if this doesn't take off, right? I think for me, what I realized in talking to all these founders in the community is that the journey in doing what you're doing, like who you become as a founder on the way to what you're producing is, you know, what it is like what makes being an entrepreneur worth it. Like whether you succeed or fail in the outcome, like, yeah, obviously if you take off and you become the next unicorn, that's awesome. But what's more valuable is the person that you become along the way. And I think once I realized that, I was like, okay, I don't know where this is going to go, but I can guarantee it's going to be freaking fun and I'm going to learn a shit ton and I'm going to meet incredible people. And to me, that is worth whether this fails or takes off. So those two things, I think, really freed me in being able to take that leap of faith. And I would just, in terms of advice for people that are like stuck and like on that precipice of like, do I go for it? Like, just go for it. And it's not going to be what you expect at all. Like I've pivoted probably 12 times, but I've also learned so much. I've met incredible people. I've really built this confidence in me that yeah, it's just invaluable. Like the confidence in of itself that like you did something that was scary and that you had it in you to take that leap of faith. Like that is incredible. That amount of confidence you gain from that.
I think that all of that is really it's funny because there's multiple ways to look at it. One is a lot of people will say this thing of like, oh, I don't have confidence, right? And then you'll ask them, what is that like? And they'll say, well, I feel like everybody's going to judge me, everybody's looking at me, everybody's making fun of me, or everybody's like watching me. And it's like, so I thought you said you didn't have any confidence. And like, well, I don't. But you actually think the whole world cares so much about what you do. You're right. You don't have confidence. You have arrogance that you're that important.
Yeah.
And it's like
totally. Nobody cares. Like literally everyone's just like worried about themselves. Unfortunately, like people are, like inherently self-centered. And so I think it's like you're putting so much weight on somebody else's perception or opinion of you when the only opinion that should really matter is yourself.
Yes, 100%. There was also a really cool psychological experiment I like to bring up around this where they had a room of 100 people. It was a black tie event. And they had about 10 people walking around the event in just white T-shirts. And the amount of people that noticed that people were not dressed in tuxedos was like a small fraction of that room. Like barely anyone noticed. It was like less than 10% of the party goers noticed that there were just people walking around in white T-shirts in a tuxedo event. If that doesn't illustrate just how little people care about you, then I don't know what else does.
Yeah.
Like that is a perfect experiment to show it. It's one of the biggest things that you could use to boost your confidence. So I have another question for you. I think this one is actually really interesting to me specifically because I know so many people that like to throw events, that like to host events. Maybe even some of our listeners, maybe they have events, maybe they want to host events. Maybe this is something that's curious for them. And one of the biggest issues that I hear all the time is that people want to host events, but they don't want to pay for it. And they want to get sponsors to pay for it. But how the hell do they get sponsors? It's one of the hardest things I've noticed most people struggle with.
Yeah.
So what is something that somebody could do? How did you do it? Like what's the pathway to getting great sponsors that'll make your event a win for you and a win for them?
Yeah, great question. I get this all the time as a community builder. It is tough. It is definitely tough. Even as you scale and you grow and you get more brand recognition, it's still a forever hustle. And there's like some tips and tricks, of course, but a lot of it is just relationships. And a lot of it is just like establishing credibility with your partners and doing really great events, high quality, purposeful events, and proving to them that there's value in this and I'm pouring my heart and soul into this. And so they continue to work with you. In terms of how you get the initial, partnerships locked in, a lot of it, I would say, is going to similar types of events. So, for example, I wanted to target early stage founders, right? So I would go to early stage founder events that I knew were sponsored. And then I would find out like who is sponsoring this event. And at the event itself, I would actually make it a goal of mine to meet the sponsor in person. Obviously meeting the early stage founders was my main objective, but having the already being there, like physically, just going to meet the sponsors themselves builds a lot of I think in person value, and you start to just jam with them. I would say the other advice I would give is don't just take any check, right? That is something that I've learned over time, because you'll start to, especially once you become more well-known or credible, you'll start to get brands that reach out or companies that reach out that will just write checks. But you have to really understand, is it the same? Do you guys match in terms of energy, vibe, right? Objectives, obviously, there's a standard KPIs you probably have to meet, but from a relationship standpoint, is this somebody that you would feel comfortable texting and telling them maybe something that's actually hard for them to hear? Because at the end of the day, those are when I think about the sponsors I have now, I'm really close with them. We have an ongoing relationship, and they're sponsoring month over month over a month because we're friends, and we built this relationship where I can text them and be like, hey, you need to, like, we need to get this event out like tomorrow, like check your emails, right? Like, and there's this level of like, okay, like trust and rapport that you have. I mean, it's with any business, right? Like the relationship is 100% the most important thing. Because they could go and sponsor 10, 20, 30 other founder events. But like, why are they working with me? Because they trust my community, they trust my judgment, they trust my ability to curate an event. So building that relationship and that rapport, I think, is really important to do in person. But yeah, so I'd say like go to events where you are meeting some of these sponsors. Go to events that are similar to your community, that would have the same target audience, that would have the same type of sponsors, and then meet them face to face. That was how, like, at least at the beginning, I started to get a lot of connections made.
Great idea.
The health and wellness space is getting a bigger and bigger every year. I think because people are needing that that touch, that community touch, that reaching out on the friendly level, especially when you're talking to entrepreneurs and business owners who are stuck either behind a desk and doing, Zoom calls all day long or whatever the case may be. So are you venturing out, and I know it's not the same thing, but are you venturing out to anything virtual, to even doing breath work or meditation or even yoga classes? I mean, what's the goals and aspirations here for the next, 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something we've been thinking about, because in-person events or in-person community in general is just very hard to scale. And so we are thinking through like, what is the digital next step for us? Because for in-person, I think you can scale in a few ways, right? You can scale to more geographies, like expand your footprint. You can do more frequent events. So rather than monthly, start doing them daily, maybe even, or you increase like price, right? And I don't really want to do the latter. And so I think for us, like exploring these different routes, yeah, maybe there's a physical, scaling to different cities aspect, but I think the unlock is something more digital. And I'm trying to figure out like what that is, because with the nature of what we do, it is kind of hard to digitize. Like yoga over, through a screen is just not the same. Breath work, meditation through a screen, it's just not the same. And I also think what we cultivate is not just the practice itself, but the community aspect. And that gets a little lost in digital. That being said, I think we have gotten a lot of feedback that that the community likes to still stay connected with each other after an event. So like, it doesn't have to be this container that we create and then that's it, right? Like after you leave the event, it's over. We started to build a WhatsApp group. And so the WhatsApp group is inherently digital, and we're trying to expand the engagement there. But yeah, I think really trying to nail down the niche here in New York is priority. And then figuring out, can we take it to other cities? And then is there a digital component to it is definitely on the radar. But it's just, we want to make sure that it scales in a meaningful way, that the essence of what we do and what we're here for doesn't get lost.
I want to be that opposite side of the spectrum that you reach out to and say 6 months from now saying, Shane, you were right. So I have a personal trainer that we do yoga once a week, and we also work out with weights 4 times a week. And it's amazing. And I've done breath work and meditation through Zooms with 15, 20 other people, and it's led, and it's amazing. And you still get, nothing's going to ever be the same as a physical one. But if you transition that mindset to, instead of it's not, I can't, it won't be, to let's give it a shot, we can try this way, to this way, I personally think you will see success, especially from the digital side. And if you're going for a B2B spectrum, I have over 500 employees, which I personally think would love something like this. So if you are wanting to test something out, I can give you 30, 40 people as bait who I think would personally think this is like something perfect for. And I really think the community aspect, even on digital, it's something to look forward to. If you're in a corporate setting and you're giving somebody breath work, meditation before they have to work an 8-hour shift, it's amazing. Vin works with some of my directors and management staff. And I mean, he works with close to 40 people on my back end team on more of a coaching and mindset scheduling there. And he does great work. My team loves him. Anyways, I'm just trying to,
I hope you're right. I hope you're right, because that would be like the easiest way to scale, right?
I agree.
And I do want to get to a point. I mean, I think it's also a little bit like a contradictory to the ethos of like in-person community, because I think a lot of the reason why people are craving in-person communities because they feel like they're attached to their screens. They feel like they're behind a wall. They feel like they're doom scrolling 24/7. They want to actually like disconnect from technology.
But this is still you, right?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I'm in Vegas, I'm in Nevada, and Vin's in New York. And this is the engagement time, the rapport, the relationship building aspect of it. It's the exact same. And then I just get to look forward to actually going to one of your events even more, but I'm still part of the community. At least that's how I see it. Because I don't have the free time to go out and sacrifice an hour or two.
Yeah, no, and most people don't.
If there was an option,
yeah,
I'm telling you, you could 10x your business overnight.
Yeah. Well, that is comforting to hear.
I'm looking forward to that email. Shane, you were right. That's all I want. Just right there.
I hope I send that email. I really, really do. Because
you will, because I'm going to help you with it.
There we go. That's right. I'm telling you, Vin's a mastermind at this kind of stuff, and my team already loves him, and he's living proof of showing you how to get it done.
Yeah.
But I'm excited, and I'm more than happy to be a guinea pig.
I would love that.
All right, we got a little mastermind brewing here. So let's also make sure we are conscious of Louisa's time, because we're coming to the end of the show, and so we got to ask Louisa our signature questions before we let her hop off and get back to her in-person stuff. So with that being said, Louisa, we have 3 questions for you. One is, the name of our podcast is The 1%, not because of the fact that we're billionaires, but because of the fact that we believe, well, listen, you're left, but we'll be there one day. Anyway, no. But it's because of the fact that we believe that there is a 1% of everything in this world. You could be a 1% parent, a 1% yogi, a 1% cake maker. It doesn't matter. It's how are you striving and showing up to achieve a small percentage of excellence and exceed the norm. And so our question to you is, what is your version or your view of a 1% life?
I think it's just constantly doing things outside of your comfort zone. I know that's like really basic and cliche, but it compounds, right? And I think you today decide, okay, I'm going to give up processed foods, right? Tomorrow, it's going to be something bigger than that. And then a week from now, it's something bigger. Like for me, a great example is like I, have always really been into like yoga and like low impact modality. I've worked out most of my life, but I've never been a runner. I absolutely hated running. I just found it really boring. I wasn't good at it. And I just, rather than like trying, I was just like, nope, running's not for me. I'm not a runner. The run clubs are crazy. And last year I decided to run. I started to run, and I, within a few months, started to train for a half marathon. And I just did the half marathon in March after 5 months of training, and I got a sub 2 hours. So it is one of those things where like, a half marathon's not, people are running ultra marathons and Ironmans. And to me, it was like, it wasn't like this big achievement or a massive accomplishment, but it was just a little bit of a, hey, I'm stepping outside my comfort zone and doing something that I've historically always hated. And I'm just going to try it. And compounding that over time, it gives you the confidence, right? So I did that in March, and I just signed up for my full in November. So like, It's little steps like that. I think that I would have never, ever, I still don't actually have the confidence to run the full. Like, I'm like, what am I doing? But I know that I can do it because I did the half, and I had the same feeling when I signed up for the half. So for me, I think the 1% is just living that life of constantly putting yourself in these uncomfortable positions and doing things that are really freaking hard that you think you can't do, and proving to yourself that you can continuously do them. And then just taking that to every freaking aspect of your life, whether that's your business, relationships, your personal health, your mental health, your hobbies, right? Like just really putting yourself in these uncomfortable positions and proving to yourself that you can.
I love it. And now I got this next question for you, which Shane kind of already asked you earlier and messed up the whole order because he doesn't get it by now. We've only done like 100 and something episodes, but
Sounds
you
about
know,
right.
why not? Right. Yeah. It just doesn't stick. So Louisa, what is one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
Oh, that's tough. I talk to founders every day now, and so I'm learning something every single day from really inspiring people, like all the time. And they give me incredible advice. So to pick one is tough, but I'd say the best, or like advice that has like continuously resonated with me over time, I think, is that life is not linear, and so don't approach life linearly. Or don't get set, like don't feel like you're being set back or discouraged if you're not moving in a linear fashion. And that has helped me a lot, because I think sometimes people think like success and progress is like you have to constantly be like improving, but sometimes it's like you have a bad day, you have a bad week, you have a bad month, right? And that doesn't mean that you're not going to get to where you want to get to, or that like you're not going to achieve your end goal. It's just that life is ebbs and flows. And especially as an entrepreneur, like you can't predict everything that's going to happen. There's no playbook, and you pivot a million times. So that has been really great advice for me to keep me going when I get set back or rejections or things don't go according to plan. I'm like, you know what? It's not linear. And I mean, look at the stock market, right? Like nothing is linear in life. And that has been really helpful for me.
That always reminds me of that photo of a heartbeat, and it says, "This is your life. If it was flat, you'd be dead." So,
Yeah.
I always love it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
So, Louisa, last question, probably the most important one. I mean, they're all great, right? But this one's the most important, because now is where people can figure it out. Is how can people get in touch with you? How can they get involved with what you're doing? And how can they know or do more?
Yes. Follow us on Instagram, Shanti House Co. We also have a website, www.shantihouse.co, which has our events calendar. And if you want to sign up for membership, they're there. We're also looking for Shanti House guides or facilitators. So if you're a yoga practitioner, wellness practitioner, breath work, etc., definitely sign up. And we're hosting our first ever women's wellness retreat in Costa Rica on July 21st to the 27th. So if you're interested in transforming your life, come to that.
100%. Every woman should be in there. And
yes.
If I had
the
longer
link
hair,
to that, by the way, is www.thedreamretreat.co.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
So, yeah, it's going to be massively valuable. If I had longer hair and less of a beard, I'd be there. So
we'll do a co-ed one soon. We wanted to keep the first one pretty intimate and to what we know.
All right. Well, I'll be at the co-ed one. So there you have it, folks. Go connect with Louisa. Go check out Shanti House, especially if you're local to New York. Tell them you saw that the episode with her in it. Not that would really do anything except for make it known that she was seen here, but definitely give her a follow, give her a shout, check it out, and eventually she might launch online, so be a part of it. But until then, you'll just have to watch with envy if you're not local. So as always, everybody, please stay tuned for another episode of the 1% podcast. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, let us know what you thought of the episode. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out. Shane and I are always looking. Otherwise, we'll see you soon. I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
And that was Louisa. See you, everybody.
Bye, guys.